So as we continue to talk about Kalen DeBoer and company getting huge wins on the recruiting trail, I think even Alabama fans are pleasantly surprised about this staff's ability to attract top-tier defensive talent. Well, here we sit once again as Alabama has just gotten a massive win over Ohio State for one of the best prospects in all of high school football, and yet another huge addition to the defensive talent they've assembled in the class of 2025. Of course, today we're here to talk about and break down Justin Hill and why this is a huge win that you need to be excited about. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I've got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you excited that Alabama gets this win over Ohio State? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And as I alluded to in the intro, Justin Hill is not only one of the top edge prospects in the nation, he's one of the best players in the nation regardless of position. If we look at the 24/7 Sports Composite, he comes in as the number 58 player in the nation, a top 5 edge coming in at number 4, and a top 5 player in the state of Ohio coming in once again at number 4. And that's what makes this such a big win. Listen, Ohio State recruits at the highest levels of college football. Whenever you're looking at the top recruiting classes in college football, nobody is ever surprised to see the Buckeyes sitting amongst the top. Ryan Day and company, Jim Knowles, have done a fantastic job at assembling a recruiting class that Ohio State fans need to be excited about. But that only doubles as to why this is such a big win. Nick Saban retires, Kalen DeBoer reoffers Justin Hill, and this staff goes to bat with Ohio State that has far more continuity across the board in terms of coaching positions than does the Alabama Crimson Tide. But yet, here we sit, talking about Alabama getting another massive win on the defensive side of the ball. And when I talked about this in the intro, we've talked time and time again about people doubting Kalen DeBoer's ability to attract top-tier talent. But more specifically, I think people doubted his ability to attract top-tier defensive talent. Fast forward to July 3rd, and it's been anything but that. This staff has done a phenomenal job at getting huge defensive wins. In fact, if we were to look at the 24/7 Sports Composite, the 2 5-stars they have in this class, both defensive guys, though I don't think it's going to be long until Keelan Russell is also a 5-star, giving them a 5-star offensive piece and a 5-star quarterback. Not to mention, I think that Alabama sits in a great position for 5-star wide receiver Caleb Cunningham, 5-star running back Ackland Deer. So this staff is recruiting on all cylinders, and it's really a great class whenever you look at the cohesiveness of this. Now, I talked about this yesterday with Caleb Edwards, so I'm not going to spend much time on it, but it's one thing to just get a bunch of names with a bunch of stars next to those names. It's another thing to do cohesive recruiting. What cohesive recruiting is a recruiting class that you look at when it's all said and done and say, okay, you can build a roster around this. You can use these guys to get your needs, right? Like you're answering needs with this recruiting class. You're recruiting a well-rounded class that has your offensive linemen, your defensive linemen, linebackers, edge guys, defensive backs, quarterback, running back, wide receiver. You're hitting all areas of the team. That's exactly what Kalen DeBoer and company are doing right now. But let's focus in and talk about Justin Hill, because there is no arguing that this is a massive win over Ohio State, because as I said, Ohio State recruits at an elite level. And C-Rob has done a phenomenal job in his short time with the Alabama coaching staff. This is a big win, not only in terms of getting a player over a premier recruiting institution in Ohio State. Georgia is another team that if you get a win over Georgia, you need to be very excited, but also what Justin Hill brings to the table. He stands 6'3", 220 pounds, and when you turn on the film, there are going to be a few things that you notice, but one of the things that excited me the most was his motor. And let me explain, because for some of you out there, you might hear that and say, oh, well, it's not his speed, it's not his strength. Those are all impressive. But when I talk about motor, what that is to me is want to. Do you want to be great? The answer with Justin Hill is overwhelmingly yes. There are so many times where the play is either going away from him and he doesn't stop until he chases down the running back, or there was one play where the running back went on the interior of the offensive line, broke free for a huge gain, and would have scored if it wasn't for Justin Hill chasing him down. Now, you would watch other players out there and they wouldn't put in that kind of effort to be the guy to run 40 yards downfield to chase down a running back, but Justin Hill is. So we can talk about the athletic abilities he brings to the table. All of those are stellar. He has got a great first step. He is great at fighting off offensive linemen, whether it's just the tackle or the tackle and guard. And I think this is a guy that once you get him into a college strength and conditioning room, once you really start honing in on the technique, he's going to be a problem for offensive lines to stop. But the reason why I'm so confident in that is because he has the tenacity and the want to be great. That's something you either have or you don't. You can coach technique. You can get a guy in a college strength and conditioning room and have him make gains. But does he want to be great? If the answer to that question is yes, you're exponentially more likely to be successful at teaching him technique, to be successful at getting him to go from a high school senior to a college guy who is getting massive improvement in the strength and conditioning aspect of the game. He has that. He has that tenacity. He has that want to. And in my opinion, that's the most intriguing thing about Justin Hill. And that's not to sell short his athletic ability. I mean, the guy is a top 60 player in all of high school football for a reason. He is that gifted. But it excites me when I see a guy that has the athletic ability that does Justin Hill, that also has the tenacity, the want to, that Justin Hill has. In my opinion, that's the total package. That's a guy that you need to be excited about. Now, when we are speaking about his athletic ability, something did catch my eye. For this guy to be a wolf prospect in Alabama's defense, just like Dawson Merritt, he ran an 11.6 100-meter dash. He's got speed. He has got burst. His first step, hyper impressive, and he's got strength. Now think back. You couple all that with the fact that he wants to be great. That's what makes this such a great addition. And when we're talking about Alabama's defensive recruiting, it has been absolutely on fire. He and Dawson Merritt will man that wolf position for Kane Womack's defense, and it's probably one of the most intriguing positions on the defense, in my opinion, when you look at all the talent they've been able to assemble, both from the Nick Saban era and now looking into this 2025 recruiting class with a Dawson Merritt, with a Justin Hill. So this is a huge win, one that was a really fun recruiting battle to keep up with because there was no information. This is the type of kid that's just like keeping the cards close to his chest and then will make his decision whenever he feels ready. And I think that's a lot of fun, right? Especially for someone like myself who doesn't have any inside information. I like to read tea leaves. I like to be surprised. And this is a very pleasant surprise for Alabama. A huge win over Ohio State, and a win Alabama fans everywhere need to be excited about. Before we get out of here, what does this mean for Alabama's recruiting class as a whole? Well, it puts them at the number 2 recruiting class in the nation, only furthering their lead above number 3, and closing that gap behind Ohio State at number 1, as both Ohio State and Alabama now have 22 prospects. So, going to be a ton of fun and going to be very interesting to see what the rest of July provides. But not long ago, Monday, in fact, I asked all of you, will the momentum Alabama was able to successfully utilize in June carry over to July? So far, the answer is an overwhelming yes, and I think that's very exciting. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.